What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Karate Leak. Today we will finish reading The Garage by princelogical on fanfiction.net. If you'd like to read along or support the author, links will be in the description so you could go support them because good story all around. If you'd like to read the first half, I do have the first half reading on my YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the iCard for you. So with that, let's move on to part 2 out of 2 of The Garage. So, Roman folded his hands and leaned forward, looking more serious than ever. Virgil, Roman, and Patton had told Thomas they had things handled and would touch base with him later, so they all sat in the living room of the Mindscape, all serious and Patton looking like a concerned animal. The garage, huh? Yeah? Patton said. It's a dangerous room in the Mindscape that you guys haven't seen. Roman raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by that? Well, you guys don't know about it because I meant it to be that way. Patton chewed the inside of his cheek. I created it, Patton admitted. Roman flung his hands up and ran a hand through his hair. Virgil felt his heart thudding with anxiety, but he powered on to ask, You created it. Tell us. Tell us everything. No protecting us and giving us the segregated vision. Patton took a deep breath. It's not a bad place. It's nice. I created it for apathy and hate in the very early years of Thomas's development, to keep them inside and away from Thomas so they couldn't hurt him. Hate started getting harder to control, so I put him in another part of the Mindscape. And even though I have hate mostly under control, apathy is a bit harder. I couldn't move him without him shutting down half of Thomas's emotional responses, so I locked the door and left him in there. Patton tapped the door. Apathy wasn't as terrible of an enemy as hate, but he is still vicious. He doesn't like feelings. Patton fiddled with the sleeves of his cat hoodie nervously. Matter of fact, he hates them. They're everything he fights against, but I didn't want to hurt him, Patton explained tearfully. So I left him in the garage. It was like everyone else's rooms, just... You couldn't get out? Roman finished, comprehension drawing over his face. Patton nodded. So, apathy created an extension of the world? Yeah, apathy created an extension of the room. It's in this back of the garage. It's like a booby trap. It's controlled with a big latch. As soon as someone opens the latch, they release a toxin created by apathy. It triggers self-doubt and regret. It numbs a side's ability to feel useful. It numbs them and renders them useless, so they'll be trapped with apathy. I locked him inside the extension he created instead of killing him. I tried to hide the door after finding out what apathy did. I didn't want to risk anyone stumbling upon it. I went in the garage. I fought the numbness, trapped apathy on the other side of his door inside the garage, and I relatched it. Since I created the door, I could open it from the inside. I left and hid the door with repression. Everyone ignored the wall unless I wanted them to see it. How'd Logan find it then? Virgil asked. Then he quickly rushed to add, if he found it, that is. Apathy must have gotten stronger and lured Roman. He must have lured Logan to the door. Fresh tears spilled down Patton's face. You know how curious he gets. Patton stood up and walked over to the halls and touched a bare part of the wall. A door slowly appeared, and with a hopeless little twist of the doorknob, Patton sighed. I was afraid of this. What? Virgil asked. It's locked. I can't get in. Why can't you unlock the door? Roman asked. You created it! Panic was spreading over his face. Patton touched the doorknob and gave another quick turn, as if it might magically unlock. Apathy. He's been released from the other door in there. He has control of the room. He's preventing anyone from coming in. It just won't let him out, that's all. That's not good, Virgil said, heart rate rising. Understatement, Roman said. What are we gonna do? Logan would know what to do, Patton mumbled, then burst into a fresh wave of tears. None with that, Roman chided softly and reached forward to wipe the tears from Patton's cheeks. Is there any other way of getting in? Virgil asked. Like another passage or something like that? Patton fumbled with his sleeves and finally said, Well, kinda. What do you mean, kinda? Roman asked. There's a path I created in case I really needed to get there, but it leads to Apathy's extension of the garage, not the actual garage, so we'd have to go through there. Virgil looked grimly between Patton and Roman. Is there any other way? Patton shifted on his feet. No, he said. Then let's do it, Virgil said. Roman looked surprised. Well, I never thought I'd see the day Virgil would take the first adventurous step, but here we are. He looked at Patton and gave him a grim smile. Lead the way, Padre. Well? Apathy asked. Logan swallowed, gathering up all of his bravery he could manage. I am afraid it is not in Thomas's best interest for me to open that door. Logan decided to not include that he wasn't sure if he would even be able to open the door in the first place. Apathy didn't need to know that. Suddenly, Apathy was no longer smiling, or even bothering to look polite. He scowled. What? Logan gestured to Apathy's sword. That does not belong to you. You have no reason to possess it. Oh, silly me, Apathy laughed. Patton accidentally locked it up with me when he shut the door. I've just kept it. I'd be a fool to believe that, Logan said. Apathy snarled. Logan, darling, you're making a bad choice. I am making the logical one. Apathy glared. Can't you see eye to eye with me? Come on now. You are acting out of revenge and anger. I will play no part in it. The room began to shake, as if a result of an earthquake. Logan lost his balance, holding himself up against the desk. Then you choose destruction. The roof's gonna crumble, Apathy said, and you won't be able to move. Unless, of course, you want to open that door for me? You're lying, trying to distort my reasoning, Logan said. There's no way you can make the roof collapse. Lying? Why would I? Logan frowned. I don't know. Perhaps to scare me? I'm not lying. It's not logical for me to lie. You are not logical. Apathy is not logical, Logan said. I do not understand your argument. You have no true control of this room. You said that Patton created it. Does he not have control over it? Not you? Patton has never had control over the inside of the room. Just the stupid door, Apathy snarled. You'd think we'd be on the same side, Logan. Feelings are illogical. They prove and provide no benefit. Just let me help Thomas. You have the power to let me out of this room. Why don't you just do it? Apathy is not the answer. Apathetic people, they get killed. They're easily hurt and vulnerable. No more than letting feelings guide your every move, Apathy said. You're letting your feelings guide you, Logan said. You are merely contributing to the problem. I'm sick of this! Open the damn door, Logan! Logan steeled himself, sucking in a short breath of air. Roman would be proud. He was acting bravely, was he not? And then Patton. Patton would say he was acting out of love. Virgil would just call it self-preservation. No, he said. Apathy let out an angry shriek of anger and flung his hands downward. Before Logan could even prepare himself, the entire roof was collapsing, falling toward the ground rapidly. Logan jerked downward and tried to protect his head as the heavy materials fell over him. Dust clung to the air like glitter glue to Roman and Patton's poster boards. Logan groaned in pain as he tried to wriggle out of the wreckage. His waist was pinned under a heavy weight that seemed to go straight through his entire body. His ribs were undeniably broken, making his breathing labored and frightened like a small animal. Apathy looked down, lip curled. Now, I'm not letting you go until you unlock the door. The three stood at the tiny door, no one saying a word. Virgil stared ahead, hands shaking slightly at the sides. He stuffed them in his hoodie pockets and let out a huff of air. Bit small, isn't it? Patton pushed his hand against the tiny door as it grew to its full height. Still short for a door, about 5'2", but still tall enough for everyone to duck and get through. Well, the door that leads right into a booby trap, Virgil mumbled. Roman snorted. Apparently. So, who's going first? Virgil asked. Roman looked hesitant, but drew his sword and stood to his full height. Follow me! Logan squirmed under the weight of the fallen ceiling. Through the buzzing in his mind, the apathy that was pushing so hard to win, he felt a sharp ache in his ribs. His breathing was pained and erect. He felt like his ribs were rattling inside of him, scratching the soft muscle and tissue inside. A soft whine escaped his lips as he tried to pull himself from under the wreckage, but to no avail. Give up, Apathy said. Good God, Logan! What would the others say? Their opinions are irrelevant at this present moment, Logan choked out. Apathy rolled his eyes. Stop squirming! Logan inadvertently obeyed, body relaxing for a moment. The pain caught up to him, and he let out a loud gasp. Open the door, and I'll fix your ribs. I'll make all the pain go away. And you have to do is open the door. Logan shook his head. The pros outweighed the cons in this situation. Apathy tisked and leaned over, kicking Logan. Logan chomped down on his lip to withhold a whimper against his mouth. Do they now? Logan nodded. He leaned over. Cruelty doesn't help, does it? You're not easy to break. Logan shuddered at the tone, which was growing softer, more calculating, as he had been moments ago, when Logan had awoken. God, he just wanted Roman to come bursting in with his stupid bravado and drive a sword through Apathy's heart. Or Virgil to nervously grovel, trying to figure out a solution. Shakily run his fingers across Logan, ask him how he could help. Or Patton to pull him into one of his painfully tight hugs, and then worry over him and put him in a soft bed with soft colors, soft pillows. Tears were falling onto the ground now. Be logical, Logan. Those thoughts are warped perceptions, fueled by a lustful desire for safety. You must not let feelings control you. Apathy bent down and cupped Logan's chin, Logan wanting to spit right there in his face, and he almost did, but Apathy swiped his thumbs over a few tears of pain, and that had escaped Logan's eyes, and Logan left buzzing with numbness and dreaded wondering once more. What was happening? Don't you hate this garage? I hate it too, Apathy said. He stroked a hand down Logan's face. Logan was vaguely aware his jaw was slack, mouth open and confused. His skin stung at the contact, begging for Logan to jerk away. He didn't. His body hurt too badly. I've been stuck in here for a long time. We can leave, though. Do you want to leave, Logan? Without meaning to, Logan nodded. Open the door. Logan's breathing shuddered. I can't, he confessed mechanically, almost as if something were forcing the words out of him against his will. Apathy went deadly silent and quiet. Then, what do you mean? I tried, and I cannot. We are both trapped here until we die. Apathy looked livid. He jerked his hands away from Logan, and Logan yelped as his chin hit the floor. I refuse to believe you. Then you decide to be an ignorant half-wit. Congratulations. Apathy kicked Logan. His mouth leaked blood once again, and he cursed himself for the 1,000,000th time for expressing discontent. When it came to hanging around the other sides, they had nothing. Nothing. On Apathy. It's so dark here, Virgil mumbled from behind Roman. It's a path less traveled, Hot Topic, Roman said. So of course it's going to be dark. It's like the grim fairy tale in some ways, isn't it? Virgil shuddered, and Roman softened somewhat. He ran a hand over Virgil's arm. This is the only other way to get to Logan, so we're all going to have to be brave. I am not brave, Virgil grumbled. Anyone can be brave, Patton said cheerfully, but he also looked worried and frightened. Virgil rolled his eyes, but a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. I guess so. The three continued down the dark tunnel, Patton in the lead, Roman behind him, and Virgil behind them all. Eventually, they reached a small wooden door with a golden latch keeping it closed. Well, what now? Virgil asked. Roman reached forward, brushing a hand over the latch. We should open it. But he sounded just as hesitant and nervous as Virgil felt. Let's do it, Patton said, but no one made the move to open the latch. They all stared at it. Finally, Virgil moved forward and flicked a latch up, and the door creaked as it flung open on its own. It revealed yet another dark, long tunnel. Roman groaned. Is this for real? Looks pretty real to me, Virgil said. I can't tell if that's ignorance or sarcasm, but I know I hate both of those attitudes, Roman said. Virgil smirked. Lead the way, Princey. Logan shuddered. The cold air was beginning to get to him. He felt his lungs were full of fluid. He watched Apathy pace back and forth, all while clutching his sword. Finally, he jerked his left hand up, and the rebel fixed itself back against the ceiling. Logan gasped upon all the sudden absence of weight on his body. Get up. You're gonna help me find a way out of here. I refuse. Apathy stormed over and slapped Logan across the face. Stand up. Logan forced himself up, his entire body screaming in protest. His ribs felt like they were moving, stabbing into his skin as they moved. How do you propose you're gonna get out of here? Logan asked. We can attempt to break the door. Come. Apathy slid a supportive arm around Logan's waist, and it took all of Logan's strength not to jerk away. We're going to slam against it, and maybe that'll at least waken the hinges. I told you I'm not helping. Apathy gritted his teeth. Help, or I'll break all your fingers as well. Logan gritted his teeth, deciding that helping to slam against the door was a better option than having his fingers broken on top of his ribs. Fine, he said. Let's get this over with. The two backed up, Apathy curling his arm into Logan's arm and away from his waist. Logan's mind began going into overdrive. He needed to get away out of here, or a way to terminate Apathy, but he couldn't grab Apathy's sword. It was on his side, opposite of Logan's hip, and Logan feared that he couldn't reach and yank it in the weakness he was feeling. On the count of 3, we charge. Ready? 1, How do you summon your sword, Roman? Logan had asked one night. You know, when you leave it in your room. 2. I think creatively, creating its shape in my mind and feeling its presence. It's pretty easy, Roman shrugged, nonchalant. It didn't sound easy. 3. The two ran, crashing into the door. Logan heard the hinges creak, but the door did not give. Only slipping from the notch in the latch, secured in by 1/2 centimeter. Logan panted, the jolt making his ribs feel as if they had been jerked from his body and turned to mush. Logan couldn't breathe. Apathy gave a great whoop of joy and examined the hinges. While he was distracted, Logan began to test something. Maybe he could summon Roman's sword, if he thought of it hard enough. He began picturing the shape, its edges, and the blade, the hilt, the slight curve of its body. I need you to hit against it again, and I think that might help. What are you doing? Apathy snapped. Logan's hand was jutted out, eyes screwed shut, as if he was working at every bit of his energy to conjure the sword. Please, I only need it once, Roman. Please. Stop it! Stop that! Apathy shouted. He reached forward and grabbed Logan by the shoulders. Logan's eyes flew open, and his hands jerked back to protect his ribs. The sound of metal clattering to the floor echoed across the room, and Logan saw, to his shock, Roman's sword lying on the floor. What the hell? Apathy yelled. Logan dove for it, ignoring the pain. He held it, balanced it in his hands, perfectly fitting in his fist. Is this how Roman felt whenever he held it? Apathy rolled his eyes. Oh, come on now, Logan. You're not going to stab me, are you? Pathetic. I have no control over what I do. Apathy kicked him to the ground, sword clattering out of Logan's hands. Logan's body screamed in pain, and he muffled a physical one in his throat. What are you going to do once you get rid of me, huh? You don't have the strength to break the door. You'll never get out of here. The others will find me. They don't care. They probably haven't even noticed you're missing. They'll never come find you. Logan glared and forced himself up, blood leaking from somewhere out of his midsection. Not good. He reached forward for Roman's sword, but Apathy snuck out and booted foot and kicked it across the cement floor of the garage, hit the wall, and skidded to a stop. Yes, they do, Logan choked out. Thomas wouldn't survive without me. I am essential. You're replaceable, Apathy hissed. You all are. You all feel, and it's disgusting. You are incorrect, Logan said. He stood up, ankles begging to drop him against the floor. Forcefully, he remained standing, glaring in the face of Apathy. Would you like an explanation as to why? Shoot, Apathy said. Anxiety keeps Thomas from acting rashly. He protects Thomas. He holds him back. Sometimes, but the others help to balance him out. We prevent him from crippling Thomas. Morality keeps Thomas kind. He is what allows Thomas to forgive those who have wronged him. He is the center of Thomas's love and kindness. Logan choked out and spat a mouthful of blood. Prince creativity. He fuels Thomas's imagination and passion. He allows him to come up with innovative and new ideas. He provides content for the world to enjoy. So, I provide logic. I provide the plans and the voice of reason. I am what helps to get tasks completed. I keep Thomas's body and mind healthy. Logan's foot brushed against the handle of the sword. What do you provide, Apathy? Nothing. Apathy snarled. You are wrong, Logan. I am rarely wrong, Logan said. This is not an instance in which I am incorrect. Penna was right about locking you up. Logan jolted forward, kicking his feet upward with all the strength against the sword. The sword flicked upward, and he knelt down, hissing past the pain, as he snatched it by its hilt. Sides can't die, Apathy mocked. But sides can be damaged. I'm not going to make you suffer as much as me suffer. Apathy flinched and backed up a step. An eye for an eye. Justice. But was not what you were aiming to do, Patton? I made a mistake. Too bad. Mistakes can be deadly. Logan raised his sword and slashed an arc around his body. The sword glowed with dark purple electricity as it slammed into Apathy. A sickening crack echoed across the garage, and Apathy melted into a dark black gas that somehow made the room even cooler. Panting, Logan limped over to the wall-sized door. He pulled up the latch, and the door began to rise. The black gas slid through the bottom. Logan coughed and wheezed as the gas that once was Apathy joined in with the army that was plunging through the door. You're replaceable. You're replaceable. Logan struggled to stand. No, I'm not, he said into the room. I'm necessary to Thomas. The gas gathered around him, feeding on his weakness. Give up. You're replaceable. Lay down. The garage will take care of you. I refuse to be bitter, Logan recited, choking. I refuse to let failure define me. I'll get up again. I am not replaceable. I am essential. The gas thinned out. Logan concentrated all his energy on pushing the giant door shut. The gas, desperate not to be left inside the garage, began to leaking out. The door felt heavier and heavier. You're replaceable. You're worthless. You are not essential. I am essential. I'm essential, Logan repeated. The mantra formed on his lips like clay. I am irreplaceable. Thomas needs me. They need me. I am needed. The door slammed shut. Logan wrenched at the latch and creaked closed. Logan panted, sweat pooling down his forehead like a waterfall. He collapsed on the ground, tears of exhaustion beginning to press at his eyes. There was a loud bang, and then a long door was flung back open. For a brief moment, Logan was terrified that Apathy was back, terrified that he was somehow opening the door and back for revenge on Logan. However, those fears were all aside quickly when Roman ran in, his sword raised high. Logan was confused. Wasn't... He looked down. Somewhere the sword had been conjured still laid. That didn't make sense. Virgil stood behind Roman, frightened but looking determined. Patton looked absolutely murderous. Oh my God, Virgil choked out. He crossed the room in an instant and dropping to his knees beside Logan. Oh God. His hands were trembling as they traveled over Logan's hair and chest and arms, and Roman gently pulled Virgil aside. Virg, I got this. Patton, grab me some bandages. Patton was pale and shaking. He ran to the desk and opened the drawer. He handed Roman a thick stack of something soft that was laid onto bleeding ribs. Logan winced in pain, and Virgil reached out with trembling fingers and smoothed back his hair. I got rid of Apathy, Logan mumbled. He looked right into Roman's eyes. I defeated Apathy, Roman. Good job, though. Good, wonderful job, Roman praised. He looked to Patton. Give me some tape. Virgil smoothed Logan's hair again. It felt wonderful. It was such a stark contrast to the cruel and merciless touches of Apathy. Virgil's movements weren't calculated or manipulative. They were desperate, nervous, comforting. They were everything Apathy's could not be. I locked the door. Apathy couldn't come back. We can seal this room forever, Logan choked out. Thank you, Logan. Relax, Patton said softly. Logan almost shuddered in response. Inwardly, he decided he would try to never bash Patton's icky emotional responses anymore. Okay, buddy? Logan nodded, feeling his body still trembling. He'd never been afraid. Afraid that this was his damnation. That he'd been locked up in the garage forever. But here they were. Virgil, Patton, Roman, all looking at him with concern and care. It made Logan feel good. Really good. His eyes slid shut in exhaustion, faintly aware he was being lifted up and taken out of the hellish garage. Logan gasped awake in Logan's cognitive thought. He realized he was in Roman's room. He was lying on Roman's bed, the huge canopy bed making him feel impossibly small, especially since he was buried under several thick, warm comforters. His hands instantly reached for his ribs, anxious to protect the injured part of his body. He didn't register Roman running across the room to gently try to coax Logan into dropping his hands. Logan, stop. It's okay. You're okay. Logan raised his head and met Roman's wide and protective gaze. Logan slowly dropped his hands from clasping his ribs. That's good, Specs. That's good. Roman climbed on the bed and sat across from Logan. Do they hurt? Logan burst out into a coughing fit. His tortured lungs felt as if they were going to shrivel up inside of him and quit working. Finally, he regained his composure. He realized Roman was tightly grasping his hand, worriedly looking into his eyes. It would not be accurate to say that everything hurts at this present moment. Roman let out a little hum of sympathy. I would be shocked if it didn't hurt. His thumb was gently gracing over Logan's trembling hand. It didn't feel right. Logan had never struggled with shaking before. Was this going to become a reoccurring problem? I am afraid right now, Roman. You're perfectly safe, Roman soothed. I know that, Logan snapped, frustrated. Logically, I can figure that out. However, He ran his free hand over his ribs. The skin seemed to shudder under his touch. I am feeling unsafe in the back of my mind. Somehow it defies logic entirely. I'm right here. I'm fine. I'm fine. Roman's arms wrapped around Logan as his body began to tremble. It's okay, Logan. It's okay. Logan felt the shape of Roman's sword against his hip, and Logan managed to pull himself away slightly to ask. In the garage. I thought I'd conjured your sword. Roman smiled softly and stood up, walking over to his dresser and picking up the sword that Logan had conjured. Logan stared, looking from the sword in Roman's hands to the one sheltered at his side. It was as if he were seeing double. You mean this? Roman asked, giving a hand gesture to the sword in his hands. Logan blinked, unable to comprehend. There were only 2 swords. You created this one, Logan. I don't know how on earth you did, but you did. From your mind alone. I'm not creative, Logan said. That I cannot create. Apparently you can, Roman said, walking over and sat back down next to Logan, balancing the sword on both of their knees. Impossible, Logan whispered. Improbable, not impossible. Come on, you're better in probability and that crap than I am. Perhaps it was a conjured copy. Roman shook his head. Why are you trying so hard to discredit yourself? I'm creativity. I can recognize a creation when I see one. You created this, my dude. Logan remained silent, eyeing the sword with a curious eye. If he hadn't known it was made by him, he would have said it had excellent craftsmanship. It was sturdy but beautiful. Now that Logan looked closer, he could see it was similar to Roman's, but it was also different. It wasn't curved in the slightest, and the hilt was a little smaller. It was a little sharper than Roman's from the lack of use, as well as longer. I am so glad you're okay, Logan, Roman said quietly. Logan found the statement quite random. He still appreciated it, though. The four sides stood in front of the door to the garage. Logan absent-mindedly traced his fingers over the wrapped wound under his shirt. If he wasn't careful, he'd take himself back to the garage, lying on the floor and bleeding all over the concrete. He could hear the labored breaths. He could feel each painful intake of breath. An arm looped around his own, and he lifted his eyes to see Virgil smiling dryly at him. "Hey, get out of your head, Lo." Logan realized his breathing was distorted, panting, irregular. He gasped and then began taking careful and controlled breaths. Virgil's eyebrows knitted together in concern. "You're okay, Logan." Logan nodded. He knew that. He did. He knew, but it was hard to understand, to accept. He wondered if the way he was feeling was the way Virgil always felt, constantly ready to fight, ready to hide, always aiming to protect himself from danger that might not even be there. Footsteps approached from behind them, and Roman stood, sword sheltered in his belt. He laid a hand on Logan's shoulder, squeezing softly. Logan could barely restrain himself from crumbling to the ground. Instead, he allowed Roman to pull him closer to his side. Penna held out a small matchbox and handed it to Logan. "I'm sorry I didn't tell anyone about the garage," he mumbled. "It was most obviously a deadly mistake. We make mistakes to learn from them." Logan soothed. "Don't be too hard on yourself." "I say we burn this damn door to the ground," Virgil said. Logan nodded. "I agree." He flipped open the box and pulled out one of the matches. Then he slid it across the side of the box, and a flame flickered to life at the tip of the match. Without a second thought, Logan threw it to the door. The flame burst into colors: red, green, blue, black. Logan's eyes flashed for a second. He was back in there, smothering. The flames flicked yellow and purple. They licked the metal door until the place was a small vent. Then, with a loud pop, it vanished and the wall took its place. The four continued staring at the wall until Logan sighed tiredly. "Let's go speak to Thomas." They did. They explained everything while Thomas' gaze remained fixated on Logan, brown eyes soft and full of concern. Logan sat on the couch the entire time, legs crossed and his hands tucked neatly on top of his lap. Roman, Patton, and Virgil stood in their usual places as Thomas sat right beside Logan. "Wow," Thomas said after they all finished. "That's... wow." "I agree," Virgil said. "Apathy's gone then?" Thomas asked. "Completely?" Logan nodded. "He's no longer gonna have any effect on you." "Which is good, right?" Thomas questioned. Patton nodded. "Wow," Patton said again. "I'm incredibly proud of you, Logan." Logan's chest tightened. He pretended it was another physical symptom of his injuries healing. "I appreciate your pride, Thomas." Thomas laughed and took up Logan's hand. "Seriously, though, you okay, right?" Logan pretended his hands weren't shaking. He pretended he wasn't swallowing down memories of fear and tears, and he pretended because Thomas deserved reassurance that everything was fine now. "I am okay. I can get rid of the memories," Patton said. Logan frowned. "What?" I created the room. I have control over Thomas's memories. Therefore, I can destroy your memory of it," Patton said softly. "I can make you forget. I can make everyone forget if you really want." "I wouldn't shake anymore?" Logan asked, raising his hand. They had not quite stopped shaking since he'd escaped. It was a constant shaking. Less forceful than it was at first, but it was still there. Patton shrugged. Probably not. Your anxiety will likely go away if I got rid of all your memories. You wouldn't have to be weighed down by it anymore. Logan looked down at his quivering hands. How nice it would have been to not have been troubled with that. But would forgetting even truly help? What if it was always a weight in his back of his mind, even if it wasn't vivid? Logan supposed that even if he wanted to forget, he couldn't. He shouldn't. I don't think I want to forget, Logan admitted. Patton nodded. I'm very proud of you, Logan. And I'm so sorry. Logan jerked back, for once entirely floored by Patton's words. Sorry? Why on earth are you sorry? It's my fault. Apathy was able to get to you. I should have destroyed him from the start. Perhaps, Logan mused. However, your kindness prevented you from doing so, while your feelings cloud your judgment at times, and can be frustrating. I do not want you to become apathetic. Destroying apathy from the start goes against who you are. It would have not been right. Yeah, maybe. Quiet, Patton continued. You're my hero, Logan. Logan felt his face flush. While that is flattering, I do not feel like much of his hero. I am no hero compared to you three. Falsehood, Patton said, grinning. Oh, you think you're clever. A little. Logan smirked. All right, I'll give you that. He drew in a sharp breath. Thank you. For coming for me. For saving me. Why wouldn't we? Patton asked. Logan shrugged. Perhaps I feared that all you were frustrated with me and felt that I was unnecessary. If not unnecessary, replaceable. Logan? Yes? He asked. Look at me. He realized his head was down, eyes fixated on his shoes. Slowly he met with Patton. He looked at him with an expression of sadness. You know, that's not true, right? You're not replaceable. I realize that, Logan said, and he meant it. But it was just... something was tempting him to be open and vulnerable and tell Patton about what had happened, about the myths about how apathy had made him feel. Replaceable? Lo? Logan cleared his throat. Apathy just made the idea of being replaceable seem very logical. But you know it's not, right? Patton asked, eyes big and wide, like a puppy. Of course. You all would fall apart without me. Patton snorted. True. Want to come bake with me for a bit? If I can sit down. My ribs are still a bit sore. Patton glanced out Logan's chest, eyes flashing briefly. Of course, kiddo. I'm glad you're okay. Logan hesitantly gave Patton a smile. Me too, Patton. Me too. Thank you so much for listening. This fanfic was so good, so please support the author with the links in the description. Speaking of links, I got my Etsy down there where you could buy cool beaded things. I got some sales going on. I got some new products if you want to check those out. It's all just really cool, so if you'd like to check that out, link in the description below under my Etsy link. There's also a link to submit your own fanfic recommendations for Wattpad Read Alouds. Please do that. I'm running out of ideas. There are some links to my social medias, including Wattpad, Twitter, Instagram, where I do periodic things. Then there's my TikTok, where I make some cool Sandersides cosplay TikToks, and the channel Discord, where you could talk to other ducks and drakes. Thank you for listening, and much like Roman trying to make it down a dark hallway, do your best.